I love Artio. In terms of visual design and of how she is synergistic in her kit and she's fun to play, she's, in my opinion, one of the greatest gods in SMITE. I love her flexibility, I love how she can be played in many roles and really fulfill many niches in the game. But this is the long overdue Artio Rant. There are a few types of gods in SMITE that I have a problem with, whether I like them playstyle-wise or not. Quite often, these gods end up being stand swappers, because stand swappers just happen to have access to more abilities, more potential than others through that, and it's very hard to balance them to begin with. Then, there are also gods that I really hate that have instant CC or very quick CC for no obvious reason, and basically outclass other gods CC by just CCing them first every single time. And then there's also the Celtic Pantheon, which for some reason has some very frustrating gods to play against. Notice a pattern here? Artio is all three of them. Artio has a stand swap, she has an instant CC, and she's Celtic. Because of that, I have not been as frustrated with a god in a long time. I love playing Artio, but I feel scum every time I play her. It just doesn't feel satisfying. Yes, her kit feels satisfying, her abilities feel satisfying, but winning the game, it literally doesn't matter. It doesn't feel like you're achieving anything at all because Artio is just completely fucking busted. I really want to play her because her design is so cool and her abilities in themselves are really cool, but I'm really not gonna be able to play her without feeling bad for it or without her being banned to begin with. Artio was so busted on PTS already and I demanded nerfs back then. And hate to say I told you so, no actually I love to say I told you so. I said that she was broken back then and that she needed heavy nerfs before she even leaves PTS. What happened? Artio was in every game, crushed everyone's face, people started bitching before telling me, oh you can't judge your god from PTS. Well there you go, you can. And those nerfs that she's supposed to get are taking so long. She did get some nerfs, but none of them really tackled just how much of an issue this god really is and how strong she is in multiple roles even. But hey, don't take it from me. Take it from literally all of Twitter. Let's start with a mild one. The amount of reaction on my tweet line to Artio, positive or negative, shows that at least it sparks interest. Agreed on Artio being dumb as fuck though. Awkward enough, I like the non-escape characters versus Artio more than the mobility ones. Because you don't get to use your mobility anyway. Disregard that one. Moving on. The pros are just as satisfied when Artio shows up in their game. I told these monkeys not to risk letting Artio through, but Ducky said he would be fine. GG energy GG. Alright, let's speed this up. Surely I missed the Artio nerfs, right? This patch seems weird. Expect further nerfs to other gods, cough, Artio, cough, very soon. This is a very light patch. Okay, I love the nerfs as of now. Let's see Artio and Karma nerfs. Artio is a fair and balanced character. Artio is balanced, said no one ever. Yeah, Artio getting nerfed next patch. Shame we've got over 2 weeks for it. Well, that was disappointment right there, wasn't it? We just heard that she's gonna get nerfed. Hey, here's Ajax. I feel like the SPL game is an excellent argument for Artio being nerfed. How did the design team sit down and create Artio? And last but not least, Artio is a fun and interactive character. I think that boils down pretty well to what it is. She's the opposite of that. She's very fun to play, but she's super unfun to play against, and it needs at least 2 to 3 people to kill her, if not 4 sometimes, depending on how fat she is. The only ones that can somewhat reliably deal with her are late game ADCs, and even they can have their problems if she's building specifically against them with Thorns and Nemean. But if you complain, you want to have a solid foundation for it, so let's actually back this up with some stats and numbers from her abilities. Her passive is Thrift Store, Spear of the Magus. 3% protection reduction per stack, up to 8 stacks, stacks with every ability she uses. Up to 24%. Lasts 4 seconds instead of what would be Spear of the Magus with 5 seconds, but generally speaking, it's the percentage version of Spear of the Magus with a slower stacking speed. Maybe a little bit closer to Executioner, which actually still has percentage values, but that's kind of where it falls, just for magicals. That implies that no matter how tanky an enemy is, she will still deal solid amounts of damage. Doesn't do too much against squishies, but still helps, and means that she doesn't have to go pen boots if she doesn't want to, because she still gets a decent amount of free pen in other ways. You can combine this with Spear of the Magus, which means that you're gonna be a little less tanky if you do, but she doesn't really care about that, which is a joke in itself, because she really doesn't need the extra tankiness if she can get a lot more damage out that way. And then you actually shred through anyone's protections to almost 100% most of the time. But that's okay, because it takes you 8 abilities to get the full stacks, right? Well, only that it doesn't. I will explain why exactly later, but let's just say, if it worked like it was on paper, it might be fine, but it really does not. But before we get to that, let's talk about her one, which is punch them in the face, again, and again, and heal. Bear stance, 320 base damage and 60% scaling if you hit both swings. Druid stance, 190 base damage and 35% scaling. Also a 140 heal plus 25% scaling for every god she hits. And that's a big deal here. A rank 5 Sobek heal hitting 2 targets will heal for 120 plus 20% scaling. An Artio heal on 2 targets, 2 guards, would be 280 plus 50% scaling, and it also heals all the teammates in a close radius around her on top of that, which Sobek's heal doesn't do either. And that's just one part of the ability, because that is just the perspective of the self-healing Guardian. We also have to look at the damaging part, which we compare to a damaging Guardian for, in this case Athena. Athena has one of the highest base damage and scaling abilities among all Guardians, which is her 3 shield wall, 560 base damage and 100% scaling. Because you have to hit that second tick of this damage, which is 2 parts, by taunting them into it, so you have to use another ability to confirm this. Artio gets 510 base damage, so 50 less, and 95% scaling, 5% less, 2 seconds less cooldown, and the whole thing is a hell of a lot easier to confirm in terms of damage, unless you get CC. So, if you combine both stances, this is one of the best damaging as well as one of the best self-healing abilities in Smite for Guardians. Then we have ability number 2. Fuck Fenrir and Awilish, also I'm Apollo, but better. Okay, so this one got nerfed. The cooldown goes on after the effect of the cripple is over now. So that weakens the interaction with Genjis a little bit, so it's a little bit more in line. But it's a 4 to 6 seconds AoE cripple. You do not get away from this. It is literally easier to get away from an Ares, but this thing is multi-target. Why is it easier? Because she has so many other tools that facilitate sticking around, and Ares just has these chains, and if you get Winged Blade, you're away from him. Not so much from Artio, because she doesn't necessarily slow you with that, and she'll still be faster than you. That alone makes it super strong. But on top of that, she also gets a 25% power debuff. So you're locked in there with her, but you cannot fight back as well as you should be, because you have less power, no matter who you are. But that's just one part. She also has the stun in bear form up to 1.4 seconds, which is pretty much instant and cancels out almost all other CC in the game. And on top of that, she gets 30 free protections off each. Yes, that's less than Apollo, but it's each, it's magical as well. And that's on top of the power debuff of the other parts, so you're definitely not gonna take much damage, especially not as a tank. I don't even need to elaborate here, you can tell for yourself how crazy this sounds. And that brings us to the next ability, if this wasn't crazy enough for you, which is hero-double-slow.burst protred. Okay, to be fair, the last part is the passive, but that brings us back to the original point that I was making with the passive. Because you know how it says that one ability will proc 1 stack of the passive? Well, the dot offer 3 counts as 5 abilities, 5 ticks. So with this alone, you can almost fully stack your passive. So you get all the protection reduction you want at the start of the fight. That thing also does damage. 225 damage, 50% scaling. 150 heal with 50% scaling. This is pretty much the same as Fafnir Career's healing, but with a bit more scaling in return for the fact that you have to consistently hit an enemy with all ticks to get it. Which would probably be okay if it wasn't her second self-heal on top of her first one, that also happens to slow the enemy by 10% for every tick. And then there's also the other stance for that, because she has 2 of everything. The dash charge with a very low wind-up, which has a long range, 270 damage and 50% scaling. Yes, even this thing, even the escape or engage has 50% scaling. Another 100% scaling between both of these parts. And it has another slow. It has a 30% slow this time right off the bat if you have it maxed out. So you're not getting away anytime soon. And talking about getting away, let's talk about the ultimate, aka why was this necessary? All things considered, mana cost would be Artio's biggest weakness because she has to spam so many abilities to get her full damage off. Well, that's fixed with the ultimate, which gives her up to 10 MP5 per ability hit on an enemy. And well, not only that, you have 2 slows, 1 stun, 1 cripple, and a dash. That clearly isn't enough to keep an enemy in place and stick to them, so she also needs 3% movement speed per stack of that very same passive, meaning up to 24% movement speed when fully stacked. Because that's important. And the saddest thing about Artio is that she probably looks much weaker statistically. I have seen way too many people playing support Artio without any secondary peeling frontline, and then she clearly doesn't work. It's just not how this character functions. You're way better off playing her in solo or even in jungle if you want to, or you need a comp that makes her work, like you need to play as if you had a warrior in duo lane and you want to have a secondary guardian or a very CC focused warrior to make up for her in solo lane. People don't understand that, so people lose on Artio, and she probably looks way worse on the statistics, especially in casuals and ranked, than she should be. At this rate, we'll have to introduce a mechanic that allows us to climb up on trees in order to get away from Artio. And with that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're not subscribed yet, feel free to click the sub button and maybe the bell, it really helps me out. Also, please keep in mind that this is a rant video. Obviously, it's not 100% serious, even though Artio is overpowered, so don't take it as such. See you for the next one tomorrow or later, depending on how it works out today. DukeSloth, out.